Hello everyone, welcome to HQ 4.0. This will be our EDI HQ product release rundown for you. This will be a series of 1 of 3 webinars. We'll be walking you through the new feature set of HQ 4.0. As we go through, we are going to see a lot of differences with HQ 4.0, so we want to divide this into 3 different sections for you. To start off, we're going to run through some of the updates that you'll see firsthand, and we want to walk you through an agenda of what you'll be seeing today. Just a heads up, you will be seeing a few different screens. We will be going through our PowerPoint and into the EDI HQ platform so that you can get a comparison of what it is and the actual walkthrough of how these new features will work for you. To start off, we're going to do a speaker introduction, which will be Seth Lever, and we'll get going with that in a moment. Then we're going to lead into a comparison of EDI HQ 3.5 versus 4.0. After that, we'll be leading into one of the new features you're going to be hearing about, the append feature to unique ID and XML file definition. Next conversation will be smart condition, followed by smart select, and we'll be spending a little bit of time on improved archiving, as well as the EDI HQ confirmation message. And we will be ending on the location for all release notes for HQ 4.0 to keep you up to date. Continuing today, we want to speak about Seth Lever. He will be our speaker today. He is our Senior EDI Consultant and Head of Training here at One EDI Source. A lot of you may have interacted with him, trained with him, or spoke with him in the past regarding your HQ interface. To go through it, Seth has nearly 20 years of EDI and ERP experience in most platforms. He has trained and certified over 1,000+ EDI professionals with on-site and virtual trainings. He has implemented EDI solutions for organizations of all sizes and complexities. He has been an expert in all aspects of multiple industries, such as automotive, CPG, healthcare, manufacturing, logistics, and much more. So Seth, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Leading in, Seth will take over. We're going to get started with the comparison of HQ version 3.5 versus 4.0. Seth, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Jacob. Good afternoon, everyone. First topic we're going to discuss is HQ version 3.5 and 4.0. Even though application development is currently happening in parallel for both 3.5 and 4.0, there are some differences between the two versions. The major difference being 3.5 is a 32-bit application and version 4 is a 64-bit application. So if performance is in question, version 4 will allow for faster processing and utilization of more resources. Version 3.5 can utilize both the .map and the .hqm maps. Version 4 can only use HQM. So prior to upgrading to version 4, you will need to upgrade all the .maps to HQMs. Version 3.5 and higher will not allow for FoxPro processes. So custom applications, custom PRGs will not be utilized. A lot of the custom PRGs that we've used in the past have been converted over to operators within the new HQM. So again, 3.5 and prior, if you're utilizing database mapping, you're currently using a 32-bit ODBC driver. Moving to version 4, all of these ODBC connections will need to be changed to the 64-bit.
And then just a few questions to ask you with that. So we had a few come in. First one is, what does it take to move to 4.0?
Upgrading to version 4.0 is a very easy process. Basically, we're just going to be double-clicking on the executable, and then you'll be off and running.
Perfect. Now, other question we got is there a cost associated with upgrading to 4.0?
There is no cost to upgrading to version 4.
Perfect. So, sounds easy enough. So, continuing on, we are leading into the append feature to unique ID and XML file definition. Just give us one moment. We are going to switch out and actually get into the demo of this so you can see how this works.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to go to our File Definitions tab. And you can see here I have a pre-configured 810 XML file definition. So I'm going to go ahead and double-click on that. When you're beginning to set up your file definition, it does look like all the other outbound file definitions that you've used in the past. So the type, we're going to go ahead and select our XML. And then under our properties, we have a couple new features here. So it says append to the unique identifier from the XPath query specified and convert unique identifier using a specified data conversion. So not only can we append multiple nodes for our unique ID, but we can call a data conversion also. So down under our rule descriptions, again, just as before, your first option is going to be to browse to where that file is located. The second is telling it what transaction set we're working with, and in this case, it's 810. And then the node that returns from SQL data is going to specify a new transaction set. Okay, so our fourth option here, the transaction unique identifier is based on the specified XPath query. So I'm still specifying which field I want to utilize as a unique ID to start with. And in this case, it's going to be the bill to ID. The next one is our new feature, so it's append the unique identifier from the XPath queries specified. So if I select that, now I'm using the customer ID and the ship to ID. So what we're doing is appending bill to, customer ID, and ship to ID. So if we look at our XML file, you can see our bill to ID, customer ID is up here, and then our ship to ID is right here. So then the next option I have, it says convert unique identifier using, and I'm specifying the data conversion that I want to use. So now if we go look at our data conversion, I have one called unique ID. And you can see here from our XML file, we had 1235 as the customer ID, or the bill to ID, excuse me, TGT810 as the customer ID, and 1235 as the ship to ID also. So that is going to convert to the unique ID of target, which we would specify in our trading partner setup. Okay, so now that we have all of our rules defined, I can go ahead and try the file definition. We'll go ahead and import. And if I select continue, you can see now that the trading partner alias is Target Corp, and it found our unique identifier of Target from the data conversion.
Perfect. So just a few questions. What would be some common examples of unique identifiers in XML?
Typically what someone uses as a unique identifier, again, is just something to identify the trading partner itself. So let's say that it's just the customer name of Target, or maybe a customer ID, just one single value that you would use.
Find it quicker and more efficient.
Correct.
Perfect. So continuing on, I know we're going to be leading into our smart conditions. So we're going to get moved over and walk through a demo with Seth of how this looks and how you'll be able to utilize the smart condition in your HQ 4.0. Go ahead, Seth, if you want to take it away from me.
Thank you. Okay, so in this example that we're looking at today, this is an outbound 856, and I'm using the smart condition in this scenario to verify container IDs, which would be the label number. So within my loop, if I find I have the same number, the same container ID or the same label number, I want to skip that second loop. So again, I'm going to utilize the smart condition to compare two variables. So in our first example here, I've utilized a workspace. So in my operators, I have a text variable called container temp, and I have another text variable called container. So now in our smart condition, with our new features, I am saying if the variable counter temp equals the text variable container, I'm going to do nothing. Else, we'll exit the operator screen. So later on in the map, the next scenario, I'll go to my operators again. With this smart condition, now I'm checking the value of a counter. So I have a counter called flag, and if it's greater than the value of 0, I want to blank the current expression.
All right. So talking about the smart conditioning, there was a few questions we had. So one was, what are the advantages of being able to utilize variables and counter values?
So with using those variables and the counter values, you can store those values wherever you want to in the map. So now later on, when I call the smart condition, my variable does not have to be the current expression. It's basically looking in memory to find those values.
Thank you. And then another one we had is, so how does this compare with smart condition in 4.0 versus the earlier editions? What are some of the key features or the enhancements to 4.0 with smart condition?
Well, again, with the smart condition, previously, you could only check the current expression or the length of the current expression. Those were the only values you had. So now, again, we can call variables and we can call counters from within that smart condition.
All right. Answers both the questions for us. Continuing on, we're going to lead into Smart Select. So Seth will get us transitioned into the Smart Select walkthrough. We'll walk us through certain scenarios and how it looks being inside the EDI HQ platform.
Thank you.
All yours.
Okay, so typically, Smart Select is utilized within fixed length mapping. So in the scenario I have here, we're actually using an IDOC, which is a fixed length named record file. So if we take a look at the IDOC, you can see that we have multiple records that have the same name. So what we want to accomplish is selecting one of these records based on a qualifier that's in a different position. So again, if I go into my 810 map, again, we have a record called E2 EDK02, which has multiple dates within those records. So within my Smart Select, I can now say I want to select the first occurrence of a fixed length file where position 1 for a length of 7 is equal to my record name, which is the E2 EDK02. I want to also look in position 64 for a length of 3 to find the qualifier of 012. And then from there, the date I want to extract is in position 108 for a length of 8. So with our new Smart Select feature, you can add multiple parameters to narrow down your search criteria.
So talking about Smart Select, that would be in comparison to the earlier editions. 4.0 allows more variables to be added.
Correct.
So before you were limited, with this you have way more access than you did prior.
Right, right. Previously, you were only allowed to have just the one substring.
All right. So now we'll lead into our improved archiving. We know that this is a big conversation piece we have with a lot of clients, so we're going to spend some time here, walk them through it. And then with 4.0, we do have some upgrades that you will be seeing on your end. So Seth, you want to take us through it, walk us through the interface. Love to see how the improved archiving is with 4.0. All right.
Okay, so one of the new features that we have now with archiving is, again, I'm going to create a new process. So within my process, I'm able to select archive transactions. So some of the new features that we have here are I can select a number of days. So archive transaction older than some number of days, meaning if I want to say anything older than 120 days, I want to be able to archive that, which, again, is a new feature we have. The next option we have is before archiving, I want to purge the job history for those transactions that are being archived. So what that's doing is removing all of the logs that go with the transaction itself for improved performance when it comes to archiving. The next option is purge job history records that are not tied to an existing transaction. So anything that was previously archived or maybe a transaction that was deleted still could have those job records floating around. So what we're doing is removing any foreign job records.
All right. So we did get a bunch of questions for the archiving. So if I archive my transactions, can I still find them?
Yes. There will be in a separate database that would be created, which would be your archive database.
So another thing we got is, so how often should I be archiving? I believe this question is really challenging because it depends on the organization.
Correct. It is. I have, there's some businesses that say, I only need the last 90 days. So that's all they're keeping in their current production database. Some businesses will say, I need to have stuff on hand for an entire year. So again, it depends on the organization on how often you're going to be archiving.
Understandable. Another thing with that too is, what happens if we don't archive it and we let the database get filled? What issues do we run into?
Well, it depends on what version of SQL you're running. So if you're running SQL Express, which is Microsoft's free version of SQL, you're limited to 10 gig on the database size. So if you let that get full, that will crash the application. You will not be able to open HQ until we get the database cleaned up.
So setting a schedule with archiving will help save you a halting production, data loss, all of those items.
Correct.
Just getting something set, finding what works best for you.
Correct.
Get that laid out. All right.
And then once you have your timeline defined on what needs to be archived, you can create your process, as we did here. We can schedule that as a job, and then we would put that within the trigger, so then it would be running automatically for you.
We just had one more question come in too, and it was, with the enhancements of 4.0, the key features that were added to improved archiving, which ones were those again?
That was adding the number of days and the purging the job history before archiving, and then also
clean up a lot better and more efficiently.
Right.
Right. And then now we'll lead out of archiving, and we're going to head into our next conversation, which will be around our EDI-HQ license confirmation message. So Seth will take over from here. He's going to show us how we get to this and access this, and we'll take questions as well once he's completed that.
Okay, so under the Help menu, and then License Information, this is where you would go to update your license key. But the confirmation window that we have in the PowerPoint, which I'll go back to in a second, has some options that we need to make sure we take care of before updating that license. Things like making sure no other users are logged into the system. Make sure the EDI-HQ scheduler service has been stopped. Make sure you're running EDI-HQ as an administrator before you update your license key. So again, once we verify those things, again, we can just come here, and as you can see, it's asking me now. Make sure that we have the service stopped, we're running HQ as administrator, things like that.
So this is just insurance. So following through, making sure everything's good.
Correct.
Now, did we want to head back to the PowerPoint? So going on, this was just some of the pieces of the HQ improvements we've made with 4.0. So hopefully that answers most of your questions. We will take a brief moment to accept any other questions that do come in from the chat, answer them as best as we can for you. One thing we wanted to give everyone the option for is to make sure you reach out if you need help. So One EDI Source, we are here to help you through the interaction of upgrading to 4.0. So if you need to reach out to client@oneedisource.com, or you can call in at 440-519-7800. The extension is 403. So we're just going to give it a few more minutes, wait for any type of questions to come in, and then we'll keep going from there. All right, looks like we didn't have any other questions come in. Once again, please reach out to client@oneedisource.com or phone in to reach out if you need any help with upgrading to 4.0. I mean, Seth is always here. He can help take care of you. We do thank you for your time, Seth. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come here.
Thank you.
We hope to speak with you guys in the future. If you need anything else, please let us know. Thank you.